there just because you are getting something out of it. So, what is the picture? What is it going to look like for a pastor in the 21st century if he wants to be relevant still? That's what I'll be talking about today. Listen to me. We have got to change. Just like if you look at the church 100 years back, they will not recognize the kind of churches we're having today. So there are some qualities that would definitely propel the pastors that are going to be effective, growing, having an excellent ministry in the 21st century forward to the height of success. And the people who will not be able to change and get adjusted, they will be left behind. And it's like we're still all preaching the same word, but the qualities, the inner qualities, would determine who is going to make it and who is going to be left behind. So we've got to really have a second look at the way we do church. And I want us to look at the book of Daniel so that you will know the trend, what is going to influence this thing we're talking about. The book of Daniel, chapter 12. Verses 3 to 4. Verses 3 and 4, it says, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the end, to the time of the end, or to the end time. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Now, notice something in verse 4. He's talking about the end time. Let somebody say end time. Now, what did this scripture tell us about the end time? Something is going to be happening in the end time, and it's called the information age or knowledge explosion. Because it says, "But thou, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book for the end time. Because at the end time, people shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." So there is a mystery of what happened in the days of Daniel. And God is giving us insight into it. What God is saying, I will still need you to reduce my microphone. Because it's like a car. You start with the smallest limit. Then you increase it. Because it's going to get really loud for the people soon. So anyway, he's telling us what happened in the heavens. This is a revelatory verse. This is prophetic. So in the heavenly realm, God was doing something at that particular time. And what he was doing was, he was sealing up some knowledge for the end time. And he opened the eyes of Daniel and allowed Daniel to go into it and see what he was doing. And he said, "Daniel, you are going to be the instrument of it. Seal up some certain degree of revelation. And this will not be available for all the years and ages till the more and the closer you are to the end time, the more they are released. And some of them will not be released until the very end time." So that's what happened. He said, then notice something. At the end time, this sealed knowledge shall be released to the age, to the human age. And if you are a student of civilization, you will probably notice that we have more inventions in the last 100 years than in the last 6,000 years. We have more. They call it technological progress or technology progress or whatever, technical progress, revolution, technical revolution all over the world, technological revolution. Now we're having information revolution. Now, in the last 100 years, things have so much happened. They invented cars, they invented automobiles, they invented trains, they invented television. All these things that people who lived 200 years ago never even had any understanding of. It's just like something was just released from heaven. Progress, plane came. Things that is just crazy to think about came about. Why? Because that was the beginning of the end time from 100 years ago. But let me tell you what. Even all the inventions and the great revolution we had in science and in progress, in technical progress in the last 100 years does not compare to what has happened in the last 10 years. So things are exploding. It is not because people are brighter now than that time. We still don't have the mind of Einstein. We still don't have the mind of Newton, Isaac Newton. And those people, they were smart, but they lived in a different time. Not that we are smarter, but we are riding on the shoulder of the revelation they had all released. But even beyond that, more than that, even scientists don't know what is happening. They don't know the reason for the explosion of knowledge, of technology, of inventions, of information. Internet, just internet is a lot. Just 20 years ago when fax was invented, that was like the height of information technology. Then we had computer, then we have email. Then, wow. Listen closely. Things are exploding, not just because people are smart or we have better universities. It's because God is explaining it to us why. There were some things that were sealed up for the end times. And the more we are closer, the closer we are to the end times, the more of this kind of revelations. Are you listening to me? And the people who are going to be relevant in this end time are the people who are cashing up on these revelations. So the church of the living God, we are supposed to be at the cutting edge. It is not Satan that is releasing this knowledge. It is not the institutes or universities that are releasing this knowledge. It is heaven that is releasing them. They sealed up. Now, let me ask you a question. Who sealed up that knowledge? Who did? Who did? Why is it that scientists all of a sudden begin to say, we just discovered this. We just opened this. We just had this invention. Could they have it before? Because they are not the ones who sealed it. And until the person who sealed it up begins to open it up, nothing happens in the world. That is why for all the thousands of years, it took just to invent automobile. It's just 10 years to have much more greater inventions because we are closer to the end times. And this is a key for us as the church. God is trying to tell us the closer we are to the end time, small revelations are going to be released from heaven. Heaven is going to release. That is the key to progress and the key to achievements and the key to greatness in the end days will be in the information you know, in the news, in the understanding you gain, in the wisdom that you acquire. And you see, God is releasing it into the world. He's not releasing it into the church. He's releasing it into the world. So believers, unbelievers, people who are going to be on the forefront of information, they are the ones that are going to rule the world. Even if they are not believers, that's why some of the inventions of the end times are not being done necessarily by Christians. They are being done by people who are the cutting edge of information. They get it. But then people who we Christians, it is our Father that is releasing these revelations. It is the God of heaven that we are serving that is releasing this revelation. And you see, revelation does not come just by doing spiritual things. Revelation that we are talking about, technological revelations, will not come just because you are praying. No. Now, if you are praying and still studying engineering and getting all the knowledge in the area of engineering or technology, then you stand a better chance to get these revelations and inventions. But if you are just praying and not going to study technology, listen closely, you are not going to be relevant. Or if you want to invent, you want to be at the forefront of medicine, and you say, well, hallelujah, I'm reading the Bible. You could read that, But you have to realize that medicine is a science that has developed for thousands of years. And all this has been documented. So you will not just start from the scratch and begin to be and now overtake everybody else. No, you've got to read what history, what other minds have collected before you. That's why education is necessary. That's why you must get all the best that the world can offer, add it up to what we see in the Bible that the world cannot offer, and with being joined together with the mind of God spiritually, then we can be the people that will lead the best technological discoveries. Listen closely. God began to deal with me recently and gave me some insight about, he called it the greatest business ideas for the 21st century. I have them. I've not even developed. I need a week, between 1 week to 3 weeks just to develop. I've got the ideas together just to develop it. And for people to understand me, I cannot talk it out to ordinary people. I need, and I'm looking for the opportunity to come. I need to line up professors, scientists, people who are coming from the university, academicians, to sit down just to be able to listen to me to what these business ideas are. God is releasing information from heaven. God is releasing, this is the end time. He says, seal it up to the end time. For the end time. Let's see it again. Verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up these words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. So this information will pertain to every area of life. So for the spiritual life, or for the church building, or for the social, spiritual aspirations of people, we will need more revelation. Some information are going to be released that will make us effective. In the area of technology, in the area of science, in the area of human relationship. The same thing. Look for information. Look for revelation. Look for God. Look for the Word of God. Look outside the Word of God. Study everything. That is why I'm saying, for us as Christians and as church leaders to be relevant in the 21st century, we must realize that we need new information. To be new, we've got to get news. To be different, we've got to do something different from what we've done so far. So to be relevant, we've got to do something that will be relevant to the situation we're living in today or we're going to live in tomorrow. Even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Now, it is not me who wrote that. He didn't say knowledge just about spiritual things. Knowledge shall be increased. If God says knowledge shall increase, who knows that will happen? That is what we've been witnessing. Knowledge shall increase. So the same thing for us to be relevant in the 21st century, our knowledge, our concept, our ideas about church is being revolutionized first before we can revolutionize the society we are living in. Then verse 9 also said, Daniel 12:9, and he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. That's another confirmation for it. The time of the end. The time of the end. There is something happening the time of the end. And my question to you is, as a pastor, or as a leader, or as a future pastor, are you really sure you are going to be relevant tomorrow? Are you still going to be here when culture goes ahead of you? We just visited a pastor today in town and, rubbed minds with him. And I saw the guy and said, yeah, this guy knows where the world is going and the church is going, because he's building his church in a totally new way. We have to be inventors as pastors if we want to be relevant still. And people come to our church and they can't believe it. They say, we've never seen a church like this before. You know why? Because technology is improving, increasing. Everything around us is being revolutionized. But we as a church, the way they did church in the 40s, hallelujah, this is that day, this is that day. Even people who died in the 50s and 40s and 60s, if they resurrect them today, and they still bring them to some of the churches, they think they are still back in their 40s. Cities are changing. Technology is changing. Science is changing. The world is changing. But the church is remaining the same. Then we are wondering why we're losing the church. Why we're losing the society. Because we are not catching up with the society. Now, it is funny to see that the reason why we are having a church structure like this, with pulpit like this, and preaching the way we are still preaching, is because of what happened in the 15th century when the Baptists came and they introduced the idea of the pulpit like this, and the pastor standing just in church to talk to people. But let me tell you something, what's going to happen in the 21st century. The pastor of the 21st century, his pulpit is not going to be any longer like this kind of pulpit. The 21st century pastor is going to have his pulpit in the community. Not like a table, not an altar like this. It's going to be different understanding of the church. The faster we're able to catch up with that. Church, the reason we're having church the way we're having it like this is not because that it is standard. Jesus never built a church when he was in the world. And he never gave an instruction that this is the way church is supposed to be. In Jesus' mind, church should never be in a church building. In a building. In Jesus' mind, church is individual, believer, who has the kingdom of God in him and Christ in him. He said, you are the temple. So in Jesus' mind, church is supposed to be everywhere any one of us goes. And anywhere each one of us is in. So what is this one supposed to be then, this kind of gathering? This is a celebration, or this is a training ground. This is just the training center, or a place where is a headquarters, where we just gather together to strategize so that you could function as the church throughout the whole week where you're going to be. Are you really getting that? So church, therefore, is not where you are coming to once a week. Church is where you are going to after you leave. That's why I spoke about the end time, the sealed knowledge. The sealed knowledge is going to make us relevant. You know the reason why? Because if we keep on doing church the way we are doing it, we still need to have buildings like this. We still need to keep on coming together to worship every Sunday. But the understanding must be revolutionized. It must change. Because the church is supposed to be, you know where? Where the people are. And I tell you what, the people are no more in the buildings. And you know the reason why we used to have the buildings as the church? Because 5 centuries ago, 2 centuries ago, 3 centuries ago, on Sundays, nobody goes to play football. You can't get me. On Sundays, the whole countries of the world, Christian civilization at that point, everybody was in church. So it made sense to just expect Sunday to come as a pastor, because everybody will be in church anyway. Nobody goes to work, nobody goes to play, nobody goes to watch football, nobody had television, nobody goes to a farm, because they were religious. There was the cultural setting at that point. Demanded. Even if you didn't go to church, they would stone you. You are excommunicated from the society. So everybody was in church. So it was quite logical for them to have structures like buildings and to have the pulpit where they stand because the people come to them anyway. Then they address them. So they could call that church. Well, I tell you what, today, you can't force anybody. You don't. Let me even tell you something more. About 75% of the most religious country in the world still is not fitting in all the church buildings. They are not going to be in the buildings. They are outside somewhere. They are not coming to church every Sunday. You know where the church is now? Outside. The church is supposed to be where the people are. And we are supposed to be the church every day where they are. So we should return the old church. Even the idea of, for example, that's number one, the pulpit is going to change. I'm sorry. I'm teaching you right now. I wanted to teach you the qualities of the 21st century church. But I'm changing that. I'm teaching you really the qualities. I wanted to teach you the qualities of the 21st century pastor. But really, I'm teaching you now the qualities of the 21st century church. That's different. I'm sorry, it just changed. Holy Ghost doing that. I feel that's what. I'm not going to talk about pastor today, maybe tomorrow or something. But let's talk about the church first before we talk about the pastor. So the church from 21st century is not going to be relevant if we are just going to be seeing the church as the building. You know what the church is going to be like? It's going to be, the pulpit is no more going to be on the altar in the building. The pulpit should be moved to where the people are. And for that to happen, another thing must change about the church of the 21st century. The first change is the pulpit or the altar. The altar is no more going to be in the buildings, like I said. The altar and the pulpit is going to be where? Where the people are. Not just outside, but where the people are. The number two thing that's going to change about the 21st century church is the idea of membership. How many of you have members in your church? Listen to me. You might not like this, but it's true anyway. Jesus never told us to go and make members. So in our church, we don't have membership. I think that is too radical for you. Because the concept and the idea of having members is what is killing the purpose of God. Because instead of us to be releasing people to go and do ministry, we are sitting them down to come and become members. By the way, you want to remember what Jesus said about church? He said, I will build my church. So it's not about membership that builds church. That's number one. Number two, you want to know about what Jesus said about the church. He said, all power has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. Then one word that has just two letters. Go! Ye therefore. But you know, instead of us causing our people to go, dispersing them from church buildings, we have now proved to Jesus that we are wiser than him. And everything he says doesn't refer to us again. That it is no more me you are talking to. Maybe you are talking to the old-fashioned disciples. But we are now smarter. So, even if people who don't want to be members of our church, we want to squeeze their hands. Somebody say, by force. By force. And we have caused a lot of havoc just out of that thing of membership, things like that. So people are becoming freelance churchgoers. And they migrate from one church every weekend to the other because nobody wants to be bound down again. And because of the revelation God is releasing, and because of the progress in information and the progress in the culture and the progress in civilization, the concept of getting people to sit down just in your church to be your members is dying off, and it's fading off very fast. The concept of freedom and personal individual right is going to be prevailing. So at a time is coming when pastors are not going to have anybody to listen to them again if they are going to try to hold them down. Because anything you try to hold, you will lose. But as soon as you are ready to lose them for the kingdom's sake and to set them free to go and do their Father's work, God then will cause you to retain them. So that's the second thing that is going to change. Church membership, the understanding of church membership is going to radically change. Because we will realize that actually the initial calling of God for the church and for the church leadership is Ephesians chapter 4. Equip the saints to do what? To do ministry, to do the works of the ministry. To do the works of the ministry. So he didn't say, take hold. He didn't say, take, the responsibilities of the senior pastors and the leadership of the church is to bring people to church and make them sit down and make them become devoted in that church. He said, no, equip them for the work of the ministry. Therefore, this means to the third change that will happen in the church. The third change that will happen in the church is the pastors, evangelists, fivefold ministers, or the leadership of the church, we will realize that they are not the people responsible for the ministry again. They are just the servants helping all the members of the church to fulfill ministry, their ministry. So what I mean is, the churches that will still want to say, churches is not going to be built on pastor hierarchy again. You know the hierarchy we have in church? The pastor is the big boss. He's the one who sits on the first row. He's the one who sits on the pulpit, on the altar, he's the one who has the big chair. And, then all the people come and say, kiss their hand. They don't kiss the hand again in charismatic church, but still the same old concept. But it's still the same like kissing the hand. But that is going to die off, you see. But if you're still going to insist on doing that, good for you. You will be the only one kissing your own hand. And your chair is going to not just the biggest. It's going to be the only one remaining. But the church that will be relevant, we know now that, look, as the pastor, I am removing from myself all the responsibilities of doing all the ministry work. You are the ministers. I am just the one that prepares you to do the ministry. The pastors are no longer going to be responsible for welcoming Jesus. We are just equipping you to be the minister at your, wherever God has sent you to be. Not that everybody is going to be full-time ministers like pastors for ministry. Fivefold ministry is going to be releasing the church to do ministry. So much that the church will realize that we are coming to get instructions on how to do ministry. That's why we come together on Sundays and Thursdays. We are coming together in the church just for me to be more effective in my own place of ministry. Therefore, if we have 4 people, can we have 4 people come or 5? Please, faster. So let's say you are an engineer. Let's say you are a businessman. Let's say you are a sportsman. And let's say, let's say you are a media lady. Let's say you are whoever you want to be. Politician. So no matter who you are, the prevailing idea of the churches that are going to make it is when the leadership begin to look at all these members and say, and teach them and cause them to know that as a politician, you're only wearing the mask. But really, you are a disguised apostle to politics. You are the media lady, but really you are not a journalist. You know who you are? You are the disguised evangelist. You are actually there to propagate the kingdom and its principles. So we have to rewind and return all the people in the church to know the reason I'm here on the earth is to seek first thy kingdom. So I'm really alive, working as a journalist, seeking his kingdom to come to that area of life through journalism. The reason I'm really alive is not to make a living through politics. Because when you see politics as a way of making a living, that's why you become corrupt. But when you see politics as a means to the end, and your end is not just to have a profession and a job to do. You know that you are not even doing politics is not even what you are called to do. You are called to be a God carrier and a kingdom imposer. You know that you are called to do one thing. All of us are called to do just one thing. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Seek ye first. So as a professional politician, I'm seeking, the reason I'm going there is to bring the righteousness of God to politics, to bring the purity of God to politics, to bring the values of God to politics, integrity of God. So I am actually in politics because I came there to bring his kingdom to that area of life. I am actually in journalism because I am there to impose God through the airwaves on the whole society. That is my initial calling. Now, the way that is called for them is journalist. The way, because I'm disguised. The way I am called to them is a politician because I'm disguised. But I, for myself, should know and I'm sure of who I am really are. Are you listening to me? So you therefore are not just a sportsman. Like we have somebody that we are breeding right now. He's going to become the next world champion. The heavyweight champion right now is from Ukraine. And we are getting another one ready to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Here from the Ukraine too. In boxing, I mean. And he is already intercontinental champion. And he's coming up. He's saying, that's my ministry. That is my calling. To impose God upon people. Millions of people who are sports lovers. So in his trunk, when he wears it, he has the sign of the fish. You know, that fish sign that we all have, the fishers of men, and he has that. And so people will say, what is fish? So he uses that to open up the whole arena and say, it's because I've come here to fish for you. You are I am the fisher of men. So he is not just a sportsman that is going to professional sports to make money. He has understood this mission. I am here, first of all, to be a kingdom imposer. To seek first the kingdom through the talents I've been given. So the talents and abilities I have, therefore, is an instrument for me to expand his kingdom. Not to make a living. So the reason I go to work is not for salary. That is why as long as you are going to work for salary, you will remain a slave. Anybody that is working for salary has a slave mentality. Salary, therefore, or payment, is supposed to be the compensation and whatever you call it, the bonus and just the surplus, and is the side effect of your mission, of what you are really doing. So the reason you are in sports is not to be famous. The reason you are in sports is not for you to get, you don't even remember that there's money supposed to come after that. Your motivation is to bring God here. And because there are thousands and millions of fans that follow you because of sports, you know that you become their communicator of God. Their pastor and their apostle, their deliverer. Because then they will feel they are following the sports you do. That's the camouflage. But that's just disguise. But really what you are doing is you are saving their soul. Because that's what we are made for. Come on to think about it. How could a whole grown-up man, made by God, handsome, polished by Him, beautified by the Holy Ghost, made to be tall? Or can you imagine how much resources God wasted on this guy? Not wasted. Lavished on him, spent on him to make him so good looking the way he's looking right now. Now, all those resources God put to make him who he is, the talents, the gifts, the abilities, even the raw flesh, all these things God put in him, all that is just for him just to go and throw away, to go and throw about that's balls and soccer ball or basketball ball, and to just run up and down, and so that then when he's old and dies and go to hell or heaven. Can you just think about yourself? That God is giving you 70 years of life, or 50 years or 20 years, send you to school, make you know all you know, just for you to go and be a secretary that will be carrying paper all your life and die after that and say you have lived. So how can God just make a whole you, waste all the resources in you just for you to go and run about and sell houses and sell bricks and houses, or whatever you do? Rubbish. You cannot be made for that. How can you be made just for that? Then when you are old, they say you are no more needed. They kick you out and send you on a pension. What they're actually telling you is that go and die. You are no more relevant. Send your children. Now send your own kids. We'll use them to get rid of them and send them to die too. And so you are just a raw material. Slaves still. But for you not to be slaves, that's why Jesus said, don't even live to work. Your profession is not the reason for your creation. That's not what you should be living for. Your job or money you are making is not the reason for your creation. How can God put that whole thing in you, even send His own son to go and die just because of you? Now just for you to go and be making bricks and making houses and hearing papers and saying you are making money. What is money? Leaves that are processed. That's what money is. How can you be created just to serve leaf, branches, and part of wood that are processed and colored, painted in some green color or some, and then some figures written on it? Now you are made just to make, you are created by the Creator to serve the Creator, not the creation. That's why you can never be made just to live for those things. That's why it says, seek ye only one thing. You are made for the kingdom, to give life to others, to bring meaning to others, to bring values to others. So that's the reason we go to work. That's the reason we get occupation that we got. That's the reason we get education. That's why we do everything to promote kingdom. If they pay us as a result, as a consequence, that's just the consequence. But we don't live for those things, you see. That's why God said you can only live for God or for mammon. But really, most of the people who our church is filled with, they are really not living for God. They are living for mammon. Because that's what is pushing them. That there is when they leave church on Sunday, the reason why they wake up and they all wake, what they run about is not to push the kingdom to come. It's not to promote the kingdom. It's not to put the values of the kingdom. It's to make money. So 80% of their time is being spent to serve mammon. Piece of wood and paper. But when you see your work, your job, or whatever you have, just as a platform of promoting the kingdom, establishing the kingdom as a camouflage, as these guys, but you see that really you have a mission. You have a goal of promoting the kingdom, bringing its values, bringing its... So anyway, we don't get that's another topic. But the point I'm making is the church that will be relevant in that 21st century must have this kind of shift. And the concept and idea of church membership is going to be totally different. And the idea of ministry is going to be different. The ministers are going to be busy only doing one thing. Reorientating the old church and making them to function the way they were actually made to function. Instead of the church, the pastor trying to do that. The pastors will concentrate on making them know who they are, what they are called to do, and how to live for the kingdom to come, instead of living for things just for themselves the way they did so far. You see, the whole world is egocentric. Most people in the world, they come to church not because of God. 90% of your church members, even you who are sitting down here, you are not serving God because of God. You think you are, but I prove it to you now. The reason you are serving God is so that He will give you a breakthrough. The reason you are here, when you come to church, even you praise and sing, the thing you are thinking about is not to glorify God. It's for you to be able to get your blessing. So even though you use all religious words and say, God, it is your mic, God, it's whatever you say, but you are just using the the vocabularies, but you yourself know that if it gets to the point, what you are really after is that, oh God, this my son must be saved. This my husband must, oh Lord, this my breakthrough must come. I must get this by healing. My job might come, my prosperity must come. That's why. So God becomes the means, the stepping stone. But so you come to Him, but you know what you are after. So, speaking it the way it is, 90% of our churches we're actually idolaters, idol worshippers. Who are we worshiping? We thought it's God, but we are really using God to worship ourselves. We are actually after ourselves. It is really us. It's all about me. I want that thing. So I'm saying, God, Father, I love you, God. Give me, make sure that I get this. Oh, I'm happy, I'm believing you. I fast, I pray. I will get this by miracle. I will get it by this my something. So the thing I'm really after is me. So really what I'm worshiping, God is the means to the end. And the end is to gratify me. Self-gratification. My own goal. My own means. My own things to come. Everything I want to come to pass. So, well, those things must change. We must begin to live for Him. Seek Him. Seek His kingdom. Not because of anything we'll get out of it. I don't care if He's going to bless me again ever in life, or He's not ever going to bless me. I am living for Him. He's my life. He's my gold. He's my treasure. I don't need to ask any question. I don't have any prayer request. Those things need to change a little bit in church. You see, we look at people who go to casino and we think we are unbelievers. We are just doing the same thing, by the way. They go there to get themselves gratified. We come here and use God to get ourselves gratified. They use casino and the beer and bottles, but you use God. What's the difference? You are serving yourself, they are serving themselves. You are serving your own means, they are serving their own means. You are still the same category. But when you serve God, not what your hidden agenda, what you really need, but you are really for Him, you're going for Him for what He is, for who He is. That is totally different. So, the church of the 21st century, characteristics. If we really want to still be relevant in the 21st century, the next thing is, the next point, we must orient the church. We must redirect the whole activities of the church. Yeah, you can have your seat. Thank you, everybody. And we must realize that the church is alive and existing only to minister to the world. Only for the world. Only for the society, if you want. Only for the community. That is the reason God founded the church. The church is not created for herself. Oh, how do I tell you that? For example, God says, who are you? You want to know who you are? You, my followers, you Christians, you church, you know who you are? You are the light of the world. You want to know who you are? Who are you? Let me tell you who you are. You are the salt of the world. So who you are created for is not you are the salt for yourself. It's not you are the light for yourself. You know, if we are already light, if you overlight this place, you don't say anything again. He said, you are already the salt. So what we are busy doing is oversalting. We are oversalting ourselves. And if you oversalt a soup, madam, you know what I was saying? You can oversalt the food that you cannot even eat it again because it's irrelevant. You only throw it away. So we have become irrelevant in society. Why? Over salted. So we must begin to realize that the reason why the church was created really is not to live and exist for ourselves and by ourselves. The reason for our creation is for them. The reason for our existence is them. So every activity of the church, like for example, what we have right now is egocentric, is church-centered. So we have ushers, ushering ministry. Who is that serving? We do it for ourselves, for our own church. We don't even do it for the next church. It's just for our own church. Not even for the general church, just for your own church. You are not even relevant to the other guy church. Just good for your own church. You are not even talk less of the world. You are not even going to the world. You are only ushers when you are here, right here. So you're creating a system that serves yourself. A salt that just salts you only, you see. So and was still, some people have praise and worship team and in their own churches, and those guys they are only praise and worship people only while they are in the church. You say. I said, if that's really your calling, you will use it to conquer the world. You will use it to light the world. You will use it to salt the world. You will use it to the people who need it most. it away. But when you do it just for yourself, it's called entertainment. It makes you feel good, but it does not really meet its purpose. So we have ministries like theater group. Do you have theater groups or theater troops? Dramas, yeah. So, and to make things worse, some people have drama groups in their churches and they perform only in the church. I can't believe it. We have theater groups in our church. They could perform in the church sometimes as an exception, but they are supposed to be for the world. And thousands of people come to Christ because of them that we would never have reached otherwise. So the church is supposed to be remodeled, refashioned, that everybody in the church that wants to have a ministry must know those ministries are supposed to serve the world. We are created for the world. Are you still ready for more? No, are you really serious? Maybe we should give you time to go and try to digest. Don't even talk about implementing this yet, but at least to get to for you to get to the system. For you to just begin to think seriously about it. You see, if you look at the world right now, the church and the society, they don't respect us. And I tell you why. They think we are just living for ourselves. They say, oh, it's good for you? Yeah. Good for you. It's good for you? Yeah. Go. Don't bother me. Because they don't see any benefit you could ever give them. They think you just want you to join your own, them to join your own sect and your own cult. That's the way they are looking at you. So they are fighting it with all their zeal. Although God is so good, although that God is what they need, although they are all being is about finding Him, but because of the way we are structured, it's even difficult for us to convince them that we want to help them. Because they see us helping ourselves, you see. If there is any result that we have in the Ukraine, and if there will be any explanation for it, this might be a little bit of the explanation. I'm trying to build and model a new kind of church. These things I'm telling you, God is my witness. I want to say, or I could say, I am actually at least trying to do them. To a large extent, that's the way I do things. That's the way we run our church. And I'm getting better at it every day. I'm pushing my people to change every time. To a great extent, what I've taught you today about the church, if there is any explanation for the success that we have, it's probably because I'm trying to follow those rules and to build a new type of church. At least I'm trying. And I'm getting better at it every day. To get rid of the concept that does not work. Even I've seen it all over the world. Even where people have big churches, they are still irrelevant. Even when the churches are big, I know they will not be useful in 50 years' time, 100 years' time. They will be gone. That is sad. Let's get it straight. Maybe God will help us to build a church that will be relevant to the culture, a church that will be relevant to the society. God bless you. Let me see. What time is it? Oh. I was thinking maybe some of you will have questions, but there might be no time for questions right now, I think. But, I hope you get something. I hope you get something. Pastor, what do you think we should do?
Praise the Lord. I think we can have our questions for tomorrow morning. Let us prepare our question for the morning sessions tomorrow.